Does he use it greedily or generously? What does having wealth mean? A personal advantage over one's fellow man, or a personal opportunity to serve them the more? Washington wrote to the governors of the 13 states, urging them to forget their local prejudices and policies, to make those mutual concessions which are requisite to the general prosperity, and in some instances to sacrifice their individual advantages to the interest of the community. Henry Van Dyke brings his essay to a close by saying, I have ventured to interpret anew the story of George Washington and the men who stood with him, not as a stirring ballad of battle and danger in which the knights ride valiantly, but as a drama of the eternal conflict which is in the soul of man between self-interest and loyalty to the right, service to a cause, allegiance to an ideal. Those great actors who played in it have passed away, but the same drama still holds the stage. Men tell us that the age of ideals is past, that we have now come to the age of expediency, of polite indifference to moral standards. Men tell us that democracy has nothing in it to command our allegiance unless it promotes our individual comfort and our personal prosperity, and that the whole duty of a citizen is to vote with their party and to get into office somebody who's going to look after him. Men tell us that to succeed means to get money, because with money all good things can be secured. Men tell us that the one thing to do is to promote and protect the particular trade or industry or corporation in which we hold a share. And that the laws of free market trade will work out that the survival of the fittest, which is the only real righteousness. And men tell us that anything beyond this is fantasy, it's dreaming, it's Sunday school politics. There's nothing worth living for except to get on in the world, and nothing at all worth dying for, since the age of ideals is past. But if that is true, what is to follow? An age of cruel and bitter jealousies between society's sections and classes. Hatred and strife between the haves and the have-nots. The futile contest between political parties, which have kept their names and confused their principles, so no one now distinguishes one from the other, except for who's in and who's out. What is to follow is an age of greedy privilege and sullen poverty. There will be blatant luxury in rising palaces and vanishing homes. Stupid frivolity among gilded fribbles, while 4 million gossips gape at them and read about them in the newspapers. An age when princes of finance buy protection from their elected representatives, and guardians of the savings which ensure the lives of the poor use them as surplus to pay for the extravagances of the rich. But not for us who claim our heritage in blood and spirit from Washington and the men who stood with him. We see the heroes of the present as those whose allegiance is not to their section, but to the whole of the people. The fearless champions of fair play. We believe that the liberties which the heroes of old won with blood and sacrifice are ours to keep with labor and service. No privilege that encroaches upon these American principles is to be endured. No lawless disorder that imperils them is to be sanctioned. No class that disrespects or disregards them is to be tolerated. There is a life that is worth living now, as it was worth living in the former days. And that's the honest life, the useful life, the unselfish life cleansed by the devotion to an ideal. There is a battle that is worth fighting now as it was worth fighting then, and that's the battle for justice and for equality. To cleanse, as far as in our power lies, the fountains of our national life from political, commercial, and social corruption. To teach our sons and daughters by precept and example the honor of serving such a country as America. That is work worthy of the finest manhood and womanhood. Nor shall such labor be for naught. For high in the firmament of human destiny are set the stars of faith in humankind, and unselfish courage, and loyalty to the ideal. And while they shine, the Americanism of Washington and the men who stood with him shall never, never die. Those words from Henry Van Dyke seem as relevant to and pointed at today's political climate as they did 113 years ago when that little essay was first published. These ideals, this old-fashioned Americanism, which arose from people of the stature of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, are apparently no longer stylish. I doubt they're being recited in very many pulpits on this 4th of July holiday weekend. We've gotten over all that stuff. But I chose to do so this morning first because I learned ideals like that as a child, and I miss hearing them now as an adult. It makes me wonder, as my sermon title, where did it go? The Americanism that I grew up with here in Alpena, where is it? The Americanism that led my dad to run for elected office in 1974. Send Lance to Lansing was our slogan. Didn't work, but it was a great slogan. The Americanism that prompted me to join the Army in 1976 when Gerald Ford was our president. Where did that go? I served under President Jimmy Carter, a man of stellar character, in my opinion, who took great political risks to rein in the military-industrial complex, and they hated him for it, and the Wall Street bankers and the Israeli lobby. And he did so on behalf of the common good, for the global good. And I wish there were others like him. I got out of the Army when Ronald Reagan was elected president, but my wife Patty continued to serve in Germany for one more year beyond that. All of these men were deserving of respect. The office was deserving of respect. The qualities of character of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, others in our recent past brought honor to the White House and respect around the world. There was general prosperity, and not just for the wealthy 1%. People spoke in those days about the common good, that a rising tide lifts all boats. Remember the language? I miss that kind of Americanism in today's politicians on both sides of the aisle. The one who is in office now and the 20 or more candidates who are hoping to defeat him 1.5 years from now. I was waiting until there was no campaign going on before I talked about that, but there never seems to be an end to the campaigning anymore. And second, I chose to speak about these kinds of values because I believe that Van Dyke's Americanism reflects a similar set of values as did the early church. As St. Peter said in his letter, and Jim read it for us very well this morning, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, love of the brethren, a tender heart, a humble mind. Peter said, do not repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but on the contrary, repay all with a blessing, for to this you have been called. St. Peter advises those people who say that they love life and they want to see good days. He says, let them keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking guile. I want to say that to our politicians. Let him turn away from evil and do right. Let him seek peace and pursue it. Well, may we do so, keeping faith with the best that our country has provided in the past, and with an eye to serving even better the common good, which I believe is God's will for all of life, no exceptions. May we make America flourish again as a nation of goodwill and good work and good luck. And may God bless us, one and all. Amen.